Hello everyone. So my name is Alex Shortt, and I've done training as both a scientist, and I have a PhD, which has made me focus on using stem cells to treat corneal disease. So that's how that's relevant to you here today. But I've also done clinical training as an eye surgeon, and specializing in cornea and corneal transplantation. And in the clinic, we have quite a large number of patients with aniridia, and I work at Moorfields Eye Hospital, and it's a condition which we see again and again and again, and it's very frustrating for us to want to help people with aniridia and to try and improve your lives, and that frustration that we feel has kind of led us to form a joint research group called the Cells for Sight team, and we are growing our aniridia research, and we've come here today to talk to you about what we do, who we are, because we need you to advocate for us as well. Patients are forming a really important part of research nowadays, and it's one theme that Mark and Harry brought up again and again, was that the NHS and the school system is not designed for people with disabilities. It's designed for factory-like processing of massive numbers of people. And that's very, very frustrating if you've got a disability. And I personally have encountered this because I have a son who's disabled. He's got a physical disability, not aniridia. And I've learned this as well. And you'd think I'd know better working in NHS, but I'm as frustrated as you guys. And you really do have to advocate for yourselves, and I think that's really, really important. But one area where things are a lot better and where things are improving is research, because there's been a real change in the way the money is given out to do research. And many years ago I would have stood up and said, at a conference like this, and I could have said, who are you? Well, you from a doctor's, a researcher's point of view, you're bits of an eye. So this is you, and you're an iris which is either not fully formed or completely absent. Your foveal hypoplasia, where the fovea, the retina, doesn't fully mature properly. You are a glaucoma patient. You might have cataracts, or the lens in the eye might be off-center, or you could be nystagmus. But this really has changed, because where once the doctors performing the research and leading the research were very centered on themselves, and they researched what they were interested in, and research focused on what the doctor thought was important. It's really changed because we've got something called the NIHR now, which is the National Institute for Health Research. And a big, very important part of their application form is, how have you engaged patients in the design of this research, how you're going to conduct it, and have you actually gone and asked the patients, would they participate? And you are not going to get funded nowadays without actually having gone to speak to the patients who have the condition and to make sure that they think it's a good idea. And I want to give you a very good example of why this is a good idea. And I'm just going to flick forward a few because I put these slightly out of sync. So this glare slide. So we were getting together all our paperwork for a new phase of our trial, where we take cells, grow them in a laboratory, and transplant them onto the surface of the eye to try and regenerate the cornea. Okay. So we were thinking, well, how should we measure whether the treatment's been effective or not? And so we thought, well, we should get them to read the sight chart. We should look at the eye, take photographs, and we should look at it and say, well, this clearly looks better. And what we realized was that actually maybe we should ask the patients what they thought. Like just because the doctor thinks your eye looks prettier, that may have absolutely no use to you. Okay. So, and what the funders want to know, well, what do the patients think you should be measuring in this stem cell treatment? So we went to the patients, and we got I think it was about 6 or 8 of you along to Moorfields on a Friday morning, and we had the whole morning talking about how aniridia affects you, what your symptoms are, and what you would like improved from a stem cell treatment, from if you're having cataract surgery, and what your biggest problem is. And where glare probably started as, I'm not sure if it was even on our list of things to measure and check. It came out at the end of the day as being the single most important outcome that focus group thought we should be measuring and looking at patients. And that was a real surprise for all of us. And it's an example of how getting patients involved in research is really transforming the way we do it. So that's why I'm very grateful for the invitation to be here today, and why our group would like to build more links with your group and involve you more in our research. So has anyone ever had their visual acuity checked with the black background? No. Oh dear. Yeah, I think that proves the point. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully when you are having your visions checked in future in Aniridia, Aniridic patients, that's what we'll be using. So, and this is how we kind of interact. So we've got a bunch of people in the lab, and the reason why I did this slide is very often I've heard patients say, well, when the research comes through, when the new treatments come through, and I'm like going, who are these people doing the research? Where are these new treatments coming from? And then I realize it's us, and it is us. So we've got myself and Steve Tuft at the hospital. We've got Julie and the lab team in the lab. We work together. We bring photos of patients with aniridia. We say, look, here's the problem. The cornea is going cloudy at the edge first. It's spreading to the middle. What do we think is happening? The scientists, they think about it. They come up with theories. We test the theories. And that's the way it works. But we really do need patients as part of this, because sometimes we need samples of tissue, so bits of your eye. So say if you're having a cataract surgery, you might like to give us a tiny, tiny sample of some skin on the surface of the eye, and that is incredibly valuable for us with our research. You've no idea how much we can do with a tiny sample of your skin. Recently I went around collecting biopsies of people's mouths. I don't know if I biopsied anybody's mouth here. If I did, I'm sorry. But in fairness, I actually had my own mouth biopsied 6 times, because we needed obviously control tissue. You need tissue which doesn't have a PAX6 gene abnormality. So we're brothers in research. Okay, so what I wanted to do was just talk briefly about cataract surgery, and just an update on what we're looking at doing with patients with aniridia who are having cataract surgery, because there's one advance I think I'd like to tell you about. And then Victoria's going to go through what she's doing in the laboratory and how she's getting on in the laboratory in terms of understanding why the cornea goes cloudy later on in life in aniridia. And then finally I'm going to talk to you about how we treat that with stem cells. So that's the plan. So what a cataract is when you're born, you've got a lens in your eye. I'm going to use the pointer. Can anyone see this pointer? It's just occurred to me that it's very, very small. Can anyone see it? Okay, so this is the lens in the eye. If you don't have one of these, then you have very, very poor vision, because the eye is just completely out of focus. So it's a very important part of the eye. And to the best of my knowledge, almost everyone with aniridia does have a lens. And lenses age. They're one of the few parts of your body that isn't recycled and turned over and renewed throughout your life. The lens you're born with is the same lens as you have when you're 40, 50, 60 years of age. So, it's quite understandable that it ages. And the way it ages is it gets less clear and it becomes cloudy. And it changes from being like a crystal clear window, a standard window, to being like a bathroom window. And so obviously it affects vision. And it's a gradual process caused by aging, but we know that the lens ages more quickly in aniridic patients, and it's possible for aniridic patients to get cataract at a younger age. Some aniridic patients are born with cataracts as well. So cataract surgery is very, very common for us to do cataract surgery in aniridic patients, and it's a lot more difficult than doing cataract surgery in a patient who doesn't have aniridia. So when you're doing cataract surgery on a patient with aniridia, you've got a huge opportunity to improve the quality of your life by addressing the glare. Okay? Because you get the chance to insert an artificial iris into the eye. And in terms of quality of life, that can give a huge improvement by reducing the amount of glare. Now, this is what we used to do. I'm really sorry, I just see some people squirming at the surgical. It didn't even occur to me. I look at these over breakfast, you know, and they get worse, I'm sorry. But anyway, this is what we started off with, these huge, monstrous lenses, okay? I'm not sure I would have one of these in my eye, because I think there are much better options. So what people are using now is these rings, and they go into a much, much tinier keyhole incision. You put two of them in and you dial them over each other so that they form a complete iris. So they're kind of jagged, like, as you can see here, they're jagged segments, and when you put two in, rotate them over each other, and the gaps in one are filled by the solid parts in the other. So that's a great option. But there's a new product that's just over the last few years come out, and it was actually designed for the cosmetic industry. It's where people want to change the colour of their eyes. If you've got brown eyes and you don't like it and you want blue eyes, they put this, it's like a contact lens, they put it in your eye, and it sits in front of your iris. Now, we obviously don't do them on the NHS, just in case any of you are wondering. If you want to change eye colour. But for aniridic patients, it's something that I think we should be looking at. Now, to be quite honest with you, we haven't done any at Moorfields, but on the basis of having talked to patients at our engagement exercise where the question of glare came up, it just made me wonder, are we doing enough for our aniridic patients in terms of addressing their glare? And I think that when they're having cataract surgery, we really should be doing more. And that's why we went around, we looked at all the products that were available, we looked at the options, and we're really keen to try to improve things using these artificial irises. But it would only be while we're doing cataract surgery. You can see, this is from a scientific publication. You can see, oh, what have I done? Oh, God. So, you can see cosmetically these look very, very good. And what they do is they sit inside the natural bag that holds the cataract inside the eye. So you do cataract surgery where you would remove the natural lens you were born with. You put a plastic lens implant in to focus the eye, and then you put this artificial iris implant in front of that plastic lens implant. And they look like this as they go in the eye, sorry. They fold up, they squash up into a roll. You inject them into the eye using an injector, and they expand in the eye, and you just manipulate it into place. So I think this could be a huge step forward for patients with aniridia who are having cataract surgery. There's published literature and data on this, as many people have used these in aniridic patients, and they appear to be safe. So that's the first part. But are there any burning issues? Questions?
Can I just ask about obviously the cataract surgery? Because obviously when you're removing that lens, sometimes the eyes are strong enough to put a fake lens back in. So what happens in that case with the idea you just suggested?
So I think in that case, this approach isn't going to work. But I have to say, I think that's the exception rather than the rule. And we've done cataract surgery on many, many, many aniridic patients now. And actually, providing you know what you're doing and you anticipate the problems that can arise, and you preempt them, it's very unusual for us not to be able to put a standard lens implant into the capsular bag, which is what we do for everyone else. So I think that's the exception rather than the rule.
I've just had a cataract operation myself, and that wasn't even, I mentioned about this because I knew about this before, and the surgeon didn't actually know anything about this. But
Yeah. I guess this is my motivation for bringing this here today is that I didn't know about it about 6 months ago, and I thought I was pretty clued up when it came to aniridia and cataract surgery because I do a lot of it. But it was that patient information, that patient engagement day where a group of you came to the Institute, and it just struck home to me how much of a problem glare is. So we searched everything, all the products, all the literature, and these came up, and I think it's worth exploring this. How we get it funded and how we pay for these is a bit of a challenge. But we may ask for your help in terms of contacting primary care trusts to say, or when we apply for, we'll apply for funding for this. So we'll have to fill in special forms saying why you need it. And there's a bit of a rigmarole. We send it off to the commissioning authorities now. But we may ask you for a letter. We could get you to write a letter saying how your glare affects you and the impact this may have in your lives. And I think that may well help.
I think those ones are just mainly for cosmetic reasons, because I've got a sister that's got the artificial eyelid then fitted in after having a cataract done, and it doesn't make that much difference.
Oh, that's a shame.
So it's just for cosmetic.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I'd like to do is do a series of patients and see does it work, because at the moment I guess we just don't know. It'd be nice to find out.
In regards to the couple of things, when I get tested using the hospital, they use a backlight screen. Now, the number of times I ask them to turn the backlight off because of the glare, and I get the response, we're not allowed to do that.
Oh God. Sorry, is the microphone on? Yeah. But again, this comes back to the idea of advocacy and what Harry and Mark were talking about is, you have to speak up for yourselves, and the only way the NHS is going to change is if you keep banging on with us.
The other thing was, I battled on with them, and I managed to persuade them that I could try contact lenses with artificial eyelids. And I said to them, what I want is the eyes to be as dark as possible and the pupils to be as small as possible. And they said, that will make it very dark.
Right. We're hardly covering ourselves in glory, are we?
Yeah. But I'll be improved. I said, I'm still even now. I'll constantly, if it comes to struggling, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I said, I know it's focusing the image on the macula, but I find that's how I get the clear image.
Well, there's a revelation to me about the impact that glare has on your visual acuity in Aniridia, and I guess I'm just keen to explore new ways of addressing that, of improving it.
I mean, I've just got to start the cataract, but unfortunately my vision is good enough that it's not affecting it as well.
Yeah. There are. I suppose the main impact that would have on you guys is that certain types of them will need to be operated on at an earlier stage. So there's one called a posterior subcapsular, and because it's at the back part of the lens, that's where a lot of the lights focus through, and that tends to hit your vision earlier than, say, if it's the middle part of the lens, which you tend to get away with for longer. In terms of doing the surgery, it doesn't really matter a huge amount to us, because our equipment and our technology nowadays for removing cataracts is absolutely astonishing, and we can deal with any type. Yeah, of course you can get anterior polar, so at the front part of the lens, and they're not actually as bad as the posterior polar. So anterior polar, if you have to choose, one you might get away for longer without needing surgery. Yeah.
When I've asked about cataract, they say, no, they haven't got cataract, it's the cornea, but it is cataract they've got. And yet, there's one doctor that can't distinguish between cataract and cornea, as far as I'm concerned. They keep saying it's cornea problem.
Yeah. Well, I think that's as frustrating. I think that's as frustrating for us as it is for you, because there is no test we can do to say 50% of your blurring has been caused by your cornea, 50% has been caused by your lens.
Years ago, of course, this is where I get problems with doctors now, because doctors, like before 2000, you've got consultants the whole condition. Whereas now, you get a doctor that deals with glaucoma, then you've got to get stuff with cataracts, got to be different consultants, and so forth.
I blame the education system.
Once, as I said, with cataracts, I understood that cataracts was like it was described years ago as a film skin that goes over the lens.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know where that description came from, and it's really, really unhelpful because that's not what it is at all.
How they describe cataracts.
Yeah, I guess.
Cornea.
Yeah. Okay, well, I hope my next talk will help clarify what the corneal issues are.